music for a child's heart, body, and mind.
Good morning, Onyx class. Happy New Week. How was your weekend? You're welcome to another mathematics class. Last week we talked about profit and loss, and this week we are going to be considering another topic in mathematics, which is approximation of length. So I will enjoin you to pay attention as I take you through the mathematics class for the week. Alright, like I told you, the topic is approximation of length. But before we go into the real approximation of length, we would like to consider what length is. Length is how long or short an object is. Length, I repeat, is how long or how short an object is. It's the same thing like measuring distance, okay? Now, the basic unit of length is what? Meter. The basic unit of length is what? Meter, which is denoted with what? Letter M. M stands for meter. And there are other units of length, such as centimeters, kilometers, millimeters. But the basic unit, take note, of length is what? Meters. So let's look at the relationship between the different units of length. You are expected to actually memorize this. You must be able to tell at any point in time, because we are going to use it in what we are going to be solving very soon. So I take it 10 millimeters make 1 centimeter. 100 centimeters make 1 meter. 1000 meters make 1 kilometer. I take it one more time. 10 millimeters make 1 centimeter. 100 centimeters make 1 meter. 1000 meters make 1 kilometer. Now looking at this unit very well, the ones on this side with 1 are called bigger units, while the one with other numbers on the left hand sides are called smaller units. What exactly do I mean? 10 millimeters make 1 centimeter. It means out of these two units now, centimeter is a bigger unit, millimeter is a smaller unit, because it takes 10 of millimeters to get just 1 centimeters. The same thing applicable here. 100 centimeters make 1 meter. Meter here is a bigger unit compared to centimeters, because it takes 100 centimeters to get just 1 meter. And the last one here, 1000 meters make 1 kilometer. Kilometer here is a bigger unit, while meters is a smaller unit, because it takes 1000 meters to get 1 kilometer. Now we need to know this because we're going to apply it in the examples we will do later. Another thing I want you to note is that the relationship between millimeters and centimeters is that 10 millimeters equals to 1 centimeter. So the exchange rate between millimeter and centimeter is 10. Okay, note that point. 100 centimeters equals to meter. That's the relationship between centimeters and meters. And the exchange rate between centimeters and meter is what? 100. And finally, the relationship between meters and kilometer is that 1000 meters equals to 1 kilometer. And the exchange rate between these two units is what? 1000. So I need you to know the exchange rate between each of these units. So I move on. To approximate length, we consider half of the exchange rate. Can you see why I explain exchange rate to you now? We look at half of the exchange rate, and this is how we go about the approximation. There are two things we do in approximation. It's that we round up or we round down. And don't forget, we always round up to 1 and we round down to 0. So let's consider these 2 points. Number 1 says, we round up half and above of the exchange rate. Whenever you get half of the exchange rate, we round it up to 1. From half and above, we round it up to 1. And we round down below half to 0. So when we have numbers that are below the half of the exchange rate, we round it down to 0. But numbers from half of exchange rate and above, we round it up to 1. It may look somehow now, but by the time we apply it to 1, 2, 3 examples, you will understand what we are talking about. Alright, let's take a look at a few examples and we apply what we have talked about from the introduction. Approximate the following. Number 1 says 2 meters, 75 centimeters to the nearest meters. If you look at it very well, it's going that we have 2 units here. These meters and centimeters, but we are expected to approximate it now to the nearest meters together. So what you need to consider here is this. we are looking at meters and centimeters. From the chart I gave you earlier, what is the link between meters and centimeters? The link between meters and centimeters is what? 100 centimeters make 1 meter. So you need to get a link first. That's the relationship between these two units. Now the next thing is to get the exchange rate between them. What's the exchange rate? Remember I told you the exchange rate between centimeter and meter is what? 100. So what do? We consider the half. What's half of 100? The half is what? 50. This is the half of 100. And remember what I told you. Don't forget we are going to approximating everything to meters. That means this is what we are considering. The centimeters here is what we want to approximate to meters. So what you now do is this. You have your 2 meters, 75 centimeters. Remember what I told you, that what you are considering, which is centimeters, because we are going to meters, if it is half and above, we round up to 1, isn't it? But if it is below half, we round down to 0. So if half of our exchange rate is 50, looking at 75 here, is it below 50 or more than 50? Of course it is more than 50. So since it is more than 50, what do we do to it? We round it up. My arrow goes up. We round it up to 1. Don't forget we round up to 1, isn't it? So what happens? The one you have circled here is gone. We don't need it again. Then the one you have rounded up to, what happens to the one? You add the 1 to your meters here. So 2 plus 1 gives you what? 3 meters. So that's your answer. You have approximated 2 meters, 75 centimeters to the nearest meter. And the answer is what? 3 meters. Number 2, approximate 4 meters, 36 centimeters to the nearest meters. Okay? 4 meters, 36 centimeters to the nearest meters. So the first thing you do is you look at it. We are considering meters and centimeters. What's the exchange? What's the link between the two of them? From our table, 100 centimeters make 1 meter. That's the link between centimeters and meters. So our exchange rate here is 100. So we need to get the half. What is half of 100? Half of 100 is what? 50. So you call it what? The half. Isn't it? So next thing is to rewrite your question. 4 meters, 36 centimeters. Don't forget, we are approximating to the nearest meters. So we leave the meters alone. We consider the centimeters. That's what we want to approximate. And I told you that when what you are considering here is less than 50, less than half, we round down to 0. When it is half and above, we round up to 1. So 36, is it from 50 and above or below 50? Of course, 36 is less than 50. So what do? We round down to 0. We are rounding down because it's less than half. So what happened? 36 is gone. You cancel it. Then what happens to your 0 here? You add a 0 to your 4 here. So 0 plus 4 gives you what? 4 meters. So when you approximate 4 meters, 36 centimeters to the nearest meters, it gives you what? 4 meters. Number 3. Approximate 12 kilometers, 493 meters to the nearest kilometers. 12 kilometers, 493 meters to the nearest kilometers. Now, when you want to answer a question like that, I told you the first thing you do is what? Look at the 2 units, meters and kilometers. What is the relationship between them from our chart? Yes, it is what? 1,000 meters make 1 kilometer. 1,000 meters make 1. That's the link between meters and kilometer. So the next thing is to look at the exchange rate. What's the exchange rate? It is 1,000. So we need to get half of the exchange rate. What's the half of 1,000? Yes, half of 1,000 is what? 500. You need to be very careful in getting the half. Half of 1,000 is 500. So next thing is to rewrite your question. 12 kilometers and 493 meters. Don't forget, we are going to nearest kilometer, so we leave kilometer, we consider the meter, isn't it? So now the next thing is this. If you look at what you are considering here, if it is less than half, we round down. If it is half and above, we round up. So 493, is it less than this or more than half? Of course, 493 is less than 500, so it means it is less than half. We round it down to what? 0. So the second number is cancelled. What happens to the 0? You add it to your 12. 0 plus 12 gives you what? 12 kilometers. So 12 kilometers, 493 meters to the nearest kilometer gives you 12 kilometers. Alright, we take example 4, and this will be the last example for today. Approximate 8 kilometers, 682 meters to the nearest kilometers. Alright, let's look at the two units here, meters and kilometers. What's the relationship between them? 1,000 meters make 1 kilometer, isn't it? So what's the exchange rate? It's 1,000. So we need to look for half of it. What's half of 1,000? That is what? 500. That's our half. So next thing is to rewrite 8 kilometers, 682 meters. Of course, we are approximating to the nearest kilometer, so we will leave our kilometer and consider the meters. Don't forget, when what you have circled here is less than half, we round down to 0. When it is half and above, we round up to 1. At least if it is 500, we still round up. If it's more than 500, we round up. But once it is less than 500, we round down. So 682, is it more than half of less than or less than half? Of course, 682 is greater than 500. It is more than half. So what do? We round up to 1. So we cancel this out and we add our 1 to this, isn't it? So what is 1 plus 8? That gives you 9 kilometers. So approximating 8 kilometers, 682 meters to the nearest kilometer gives you what? 9 kilometers. Alright, Onyx, this will be the end of this morning's mathematics class. Take your time to watch the video and copy your note. For some of you that are still typing your answers, omissions of classwork and homework on the answer page, you need to stop it. Like I told you, when you solve it in your note, you snap it and send it as an attachment or as a picture. Hope to see you next time. Bye for now.